Welcome back. This is the second module on International Adult Education Movement. As you remember, in the first module, we learned about the history of the adult education movement, its promotion through intergovernmental system of UNESCO, and the role that international non-governmental organization, International Council for Adult Education, had been playing. In this module, I am going to bring to your notice key lessons from International Adult Education Movement, its relevance to various fields of our work, and the important impacts that it has had over these last few decades. In the last module, I primarily focused my comments on the International Council for Adult Education as a global non-governmental organization which began in 1973. Along with the International Council for Adult Education, there also emerged regional associations in different parts of the world. And today we have such associations in our region in Asia Pacific. It's called Asian South Pacific Basic and Adult Education Association, ASBE. I have been its president for the decade of the 90s. It has completed 50 years of its existence in 2014. The second oldest adult education association in the region is the European Association for Education of Adults, EIEA. And the third is the Latin American Association called CEAL, Council Education Adultos America Latina. CEAL, EIEA and ASBE predate the founding of International Council for Adult Education. They existed in some rudimentary form. However, we have four more associations. We have in North America what is called North American Alliance for Popular and Adult Education, NAPAI. We have in Africa what is called Pan-African Association for Literacy and Adult Education, PALAI. We have in the Caribbean region, and you know there are lots of small islands, important as they are, called CARSAI, Caribbean Council for Adult Education. And we have one in the Arab region as well, which is called ANLAI, Arab Network for Literacy and Adult Education. So today we have in North America, in Europe, in Asia Pacific, in Africa, in Arab region, and in Latin America and Caribbean. Now these regional associations have been very important in regionalizing and particularizing the development of adult education practice as well as learning from the ground. So in a way, International Council for Adult Education as a worldwide association drew strength, messages and lessons from the regional associations. And regional associations learned the same from national associations. So this is a large network of practitioners primarily of adult education and popular education. I want to bring to your attention another allied development which began in 1990 itself. It is called EFA, Education for All. By late 80s, as I mentioned in the previous module, when attention of governments was not sufficiently focused on literacy and International Literacy Year was planned, there were others in the international development arena, in particular the World Bank and UNICEF, who were concerned about the quality and access to primary education. We have to understand that in many countries, primary education for the young adults, young children, is an important development and governments must pay attention to it. But as I have argued earlier, a large number of their adult population also remained illiterate and attention needed to be paid to that as well. So this consortium largely driven by the economists of the World Bank, decided that a new initiative called EFA had to be launched. And lo and behold, in the same year as International Literacy Year was being celebrated in 1990, in April 1990, in Jomtien, Thailand, International Congress on EFA took place and a Jomtien Declaration was released. We had argued that education for all should build on literacy for all. That literacy should not be compromised. But obviously, education for all ran and paid primary attention to basic education, primary education, schooling. However, not much happened in EFA till 2000, when a conference took place in Dakar, Senegal. Dakar Declaration of Framework for Action in the year 2000 began to push certain large countries with large populations which were requiring education to give more attention, more investment, more public expenditure and better policies for education. In the same stream which began education for all in Jomtien in 1990, in Dakar in 2000, in 2015, Incheon in South Korea, Incheon Congress on Education for All took place, now focusing on education for 2030. Why this is important to remember is because in the year 2000, United Nations launched Millennium Development Goals. And Millennium Development Goals included enrollment and access in primary education and some attention to girls' primary education. Their attention in Millennium Development Goals to literacy was somewhat peripheral. And now in 2015, United Nations has launched, in partnership with all the countries of the world, which are its members, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 4 focuses on education. It talks about access, but also quality this time. It talks about a number of other things, but not adequate attention to literacy and adult education still. This is important to remember because a high item on the agenda in the Incheon Declaration and in Sustainable Development Goals now is what has come to be known as vocational education or learning of skills. TVET, it is called in jargon. So if you remember, in the 17th and 18th century, in the early days of industrialization in Europe, adult education emerged in order to prepare workers, to have them acquire functional literacy skills to be productive workforce. And several centuries later, in circa 2015, we seem to be back to narrowing the focus of adult education to learning of vocational skills. Skills is important. Vocational competencies are required. We all need to know how to read and write, how to do our arithmetic. But human endeavor is more than mere technical skills. And this is where the contribution of the adult education movement internationally has been important since the 1970s. Before adult education gained adequate practice and attention, the main learning theories of the world were based on what our dear friend Piaget called school and classroom learning for children. And the word for it is pedagogy. Pedagogy, we derive all these words from Greek. Gogi means a guide, and peda means a child. So pedagogy means how children learn, and for whom it is good, in the classroom, in the school, for the teacher. So Piaget was the guru, reigning deity of school education, classroom education, how children learn. That's what pedagogy means, literally. Because of the practice of adult education and practitioners beginning to ask the question, I am teaching literacy to a 45-year-old woman. How can Piaget's pedagogy work here? This woman comes there, she has a lot of experience, she asks stupid questions, in between she gets agitated and emotional. Piaget doesn't talk about any of this. So then developed a discipline called andragogy. Andragogy, goji means guide, andro means adult. They use the word man, but Greeks, prehistoric. What it means? Adult learning theories. And adult learning theories revolutionized the understanding of learning by adults. It had important principles which have spread far and wide. The entire profession of human resource development is built on the premise of adult learning theory. Because when you talk about human resource development, you're talking about people who are at least 15, 16 years of age. So what is this? One of the very prominent and thoroughly analytical authors on this topic is Malcolm Knowles, Knowles. Read Malcolm Knowles. He started writing in late 60s. The entire discipline of participatory training, participatory learning, is premised on adult learning principles. What does it mean? Adults come to a learning situation with experience. Learning is an emotional experience. It can be exciting, frustrating, painful, anger creating. Learning is not just cognitive. You don't learn by your head alone. You learn through your emotions and through your actions. Learning by doing. Learning by doing is the only way to learn skills. My favorite example, I'll give you a manual to learn how to ride a bicycle. You'll read the manual in all languages several times and never learn how to ride. Why? Because how you learn? You sit on the bicycle, get a kick, drive it, fall several times, bruise your knees, and then you are a competent bicyclist. All skills are learned like that. All. From planning to cleaning your nose. By doing. Learning by doing. Which means trial and error. And when you fail, you get angry, frustrated, dejected, hopeless, pessimistic, and that's when you need support. Shabash, get up, try again. What is this? This is emotion. Prior to adult learning theories, none of this was even acknowledged, let alone addressed. Learning cycle, experiential learning, learning from experience. So these kinds of theories and practical insights in learning have been a major contribution of adult education. As I mentioned in the previous module, radio campaigns. Later on, people began to analyze even propaganda from this point of view. What is propaganda? Whether carried out on radio or on social media, it is an educational campaign to influence the minds and hearts of people who read it. Propaganda is based on sound adult education principles. So this is one. The second very important contribution is a large discipline of what has come to be known as popular education, emerging from the Latin American context, from the work of Paulo Freire and others. As you know, Freire started his literacy work with domestic workers, maids in Brazil, in northeastern Brazil. And he talked about conscientization. He talked about dealing with your experience, reflecting on it critically as an educational experience, as a learning process. And popular education then grew in the 70s, in the 80s, and spread around the world. Popular education methods start from learning and thinking about your experience. Teacher acts as an enabler, a facilitator in popular education. And in another person who made a tremendous impact on this methodology, a fellow called Miles Horton from Highlander Research and Training Center in Tennessee in United States. Miles began to work with the Appalachian rural community in the 1920s. In 30s and 40s, United States had a system that you cannot be a voter unless you are literate. So obviously the poor whites and poor blacks were never voters because they were functionally illiterate. So Miles started working with them. And he developed, through practice, a wonderful methodology of learning literacy and learning about your oppression, learning about your experience of exploitation and exclusion at the same time. And Miles Horton. I had the privilege of meeting both of them. Miles Horton came to Priya and India in 1986, was our guest. When he died in 1989, Highlander Center created a Miles Horton chair, and in 1991, I had the honor to be the first occupant of that chair at Highlander Center. Our colleague, Dr. John Gaventa, was at Highlander Center at that time. The conversation between Paulo Freire and Miles Horton is called "We Make the Road While Walking." We have that book. You must refer to it if you want to learn more about their methods of adult education. The third area which I want to bring to your attention, which grew out of this movement of adult education, is what this institution, Priya, stands for: participatory research. Participatory research methodology emerged out of primarily the practice of adult educators. And it grew very interestingly when people like Dr. Bud Hall and Dr. Yusuf Kassam and Dr. Francisco Villagrossi and others, trained as researchers, began to evaluate adult education programs or popular education programs in Tanzania, in Venezuela, in Chile, etc. Now, if you are running a popular education program where you start with people's experience and reflecting on it, and in your methods of popular education you use song, drama, dance, painting, then comes the evaluator funded by UNESCO or some big daddy. And the evaluator comes with his quantitative research instrument designed a priori and tries to impose on it. This experience created the dissonance in these people, saying this methodology is problematic. Why don't I just ask the people? Why don't I start from the knowledge they have? But if I listen to their knowledge, I may get contaminated. My science, my research may not be that objective. So this resulted in the development of participatory research methodology in the mid-70s. Paulo Freire talked about it. Others began to add. A very interesting and important contribution came from a Colombian sociologist, Dr. Orlando Falsborda. And he organized the first conclave on action research in Cartagena, Colombia in 1977. I began to join this movement from 1978. Participatory research became the basis for development of a lot of methodologies which were since then applied in socio-economic development. What are these methodologies? Anywhere you need data, you can use this methodology. Where do you need data? Planning. All kinds of planning requires data. Where else you need data? Monitoring, evaluation. So application of participatory research methodology to planning, monitoring, evaluation grew. And this baseline, what is baseline? They are collecting data. So this methodology then began to have an influence in design of health programs, education programs, rural development, urban development, whatever. Even economic planning, if you are looking at community economic development, etc. Now, we can read about these scholars, these people who have had this impact, and we can talk about the importance of the influence that these adult educators and their work had on popular education, on learning methodology, and on participatory research. But I want to return to something that is even more fundamental from a methodology or from a set of principles, but something more fundamental to a normative view of adult education. The statement which I like the best, which Mwalimu Julius Nyerere gave in 1976 in Dar es Salaam, first Congress of International Council for Adult Education. The title of the Congress was Adult Education, Development and Social Justice, not just vocational skills. Nyerere said, people cannot be developed, only they can develop themselves. What a profound statement. And if people have to develop themselves as individuals, as collectives, as households, as communities, this is where the role of adult popular education becomes. Educational process will help them think about what is it they want to develop into, help them think about how they want to play a role in their own development. So this perspective of adult education, this perspective of popular education underpins the normative framework of people-centered or participatory development. Because as Nyerere said, you cannot develop people. And he was the president of a post-colonial Tanzania at that time, where if he had said, do this, everybody would have done it. No. He said, let us think what you want to become, because only people can develop themselves. And that's why he launched widespread adult education, popular education campaigns through radio, through face-to-face dialogue, through volunteers. And this is an important issue, because in today's context, let us return to 2017. We are living in a digital world. We are living in a world of post-truth. We are living in the world of fake news, living in the world of social media. I send you a clip and you accept it as truth. Where are the critical faculties of our people to examine the information they are getting in the context of their experience? Does my experience tell me things are like this or no? This is the importance of adult education. We need tools, we need mobiles, we need digital apps, we need digital literacy, but we also need capacities of individuals and collectives to be consistently nurtured so that they can question. They can question information, they can question messages, they can question propaganda. Do not forget that Hitler was democratically elected president of Germany. He was no dictator appointed by God or the king. He was elected by his own people, by a vast majority. And his propaganda led to the killing of millions of Jews. Not long ago, less than 100 years ago. So, I want to suggest to you that you look at adult education not as an academic discipline only. You look at adult education not only as a set of tools and methods, but you look at adult education as a practice in everyday life. Because education can be domesticating also. Education can perpetuate a status quo. Education can exploit, domesticate, devalue human beings. Education can also be liberating, emancipatory, challenging and transforming. For education to play that role, the very premise of adult education, developed through a long history of international movement with practitioners around the world, in India and elsewhere, that perspective needs to be kept in mind. And I would encourage all of you who want to be experts in adult education to also be facilitators of reflection and learning by others. If you can play that role, you will become, in my view, a champion of adult education.